Hey everybody, Aaron here. Welcome back to another anime review. Today we are looking at the final episode of Recreators, as well as the whole series, because I'll be reviewing both of them. Now, Recreators ended on a note that I figured it would probably end on. It was one of my thoughts that it was most likely a lot of them were going to go back to their worlds. I was surprised how they did it though, because I thought it was kind of cool where, Metora basically told them that they were running out of time because her power to send them back if they wanted to go back was basically dying out. All their powers in general were dying out, it looked like. So she had to do it by a certain time, and what they all got to do was they essentially got to spend, the kind of last days on Earth. And it sounds kind of like, they were dying, but in a way they are dying and going to their own worlds in a sense. But what was cool though is that, we got to see all of them just hanging out, relaxing with each other. Seeing past their, worlds, obviously, seeing not having inclusion, I should say, that focuses on what's going on now in their worlds. As best as we understand, their stories are going to continue because the creators want to create, their stories and go further with them. But that doesn't mean like we should start being able to see like, oh, hey, look, this is where Celestia is, and this is where this character's doing. And no, what we got instead was we got to see from posters and from a commercial that happened, we get to see that Celestia is going to have a season 2, so her story is going to keep going. We see that Mamika is actually going to be part of another story also. We see a continuation of various series in general, and it was cool to see that. I think that was the best way to do it because it's like it shows that the creators are going to keep pushing their creations into more stories and make sure that they continue on their tales. I think the most messed up scene in this whole episode had to be though when the creator of Blitz and his daughter, flat out, she says that she is a bad god. When the little girl went up to her and said, "Oh, you're not a bad god," and she goes, "No, I'm a bad god." She goes, "I may kill you off again," and I'm like, wow, how messed up. I give credit to Blitz. Blitz went, you know what? Yeah, that's okay, whatever. It's just fate anyways. It's destiny if that's what's gonna happen. And he goes, and I'm not gonna live here in this world with someone like you. That's the only reason he's going at all. I mean, I can't blame him. That was a real slap to the face. Like, dang, how can you tell a father and a daughter that? Like, wow, you have to be heartless. Like at least don't say it like that. But anyways, what was interesting though was the whole fact that we see Metora stay behind, obviously, because her power could not be used to send her back. It was essentially, as she says, like throwing a rock at the same time you're the rock. You can't really throw yourself, and she couldn't. So her power basically ended there. But she told everyone that she wanted to be a creator herself. She wanted to make a story and be like a novelist, like all the others. And it was really cool to see that because I think it's like, oh, you know what, that fits Metora. She's the one that's making worlds. Why not have her actually make a world of her own? And fittingly, it's Recreators, so you see all the cast of characters in a world that she's crafted. It's kind of ironic, but also I felt like that was coming from a mile away once she said she was going to even do anything work-related like that. But overall, though, folks, let's talk about this whole series. So, the very beginning of Recreators had a strong start. I think the weakness of Recreators initially was, for a lot of people, I'm not saying for myself, but it's definitely for a lot of people, it was very narrative-heavy. Several episodes in the very beginning were them talking and very little action or very little anything going on but talking. And we see that happen several times through the show. But as I've had this discussion with many people before, this show has never been just touted as just, pure action or supernatural stuff. This has been touted as a show that is dialogue heavy. And that's one thing that it kind of worked in its favor if you could see past that. But at the same time, anytime that someone feels like a show is too overly narrated, you do have to get some points off of it because of the fact that it's like, okay, maybe they did push a few episodes that we didn't need. Like, I felt like the one Hot Springs episode wasn't necessary. I know people would say, oh, well, it was necessary for them to come together and be friends and show how, they're still fighting through all their stuff and having a relaxful day. We've seen that several times in this episode, though, or the show, I should say. We've seen that little tidbit of information already, and a lot of times Recreators would do that, where it would kind of restart itself by talking again about something we already had heard previously in another episode. So, it did have that fault to it, definitely. for the most part, though, what really worked about Recreators was the animation, the concept and themes that were really executed. Because, yes, it might be narrative heavy, but the narration was great. We learned a lot about these creations. We learned a lot about their worlds. We got to see what it would be like if things like this actually happened in the real world. It was kind of interesting to see that. It was interesting to see how even Mamika's powers, when she was still around, how she was a magical girl, yet she was able to kill people, with just a flash of her power, because, hey, that's her power. Her power was stronger in the real world because that's more effective in the real world. It dealt with a lot of real topics, and especially for those who are creators themselves and understand that, whether you're a YouTube creator, you're a writer, etc., you deal with a lot of backlash, and, you deal with having to convince people that your work is good. You have to deal with, making your own stuff and making your time and deadlines, etc. And that's one thing that Recreators kind of touched on a lot near the end, especially, where, it's a struggle sometimes to write, and it's a struggle to have your work appreciated, and sometimes it can kill you in a literal sense to see your work suffer because, people don't like you, or people don't think that your work is up to snuff. So it was cool to see that, and I think that that's one thing I also really loved about Recreators, is that it has that real concept to it. This is a show about fantasy / supernatural mecha, etc. You could throw in all these different terminologies, but at the end of the day, it was something that did have real life themes to it, embedded into it. Graphically, animation was smooth, and all the characters looked amazing. I loved it. Music, of course, obviously was probably one of the show's biggest strengths, if not its strongest thing, was the music, because the music was just phenomenal all around. And the voice acting too was very good. I had no issues with any of the voice acting. I think all of them hit their key notes and did a great job with each character they had. Overall, Recreators, I'm not giving it a perfect score. I want people to understand that, because I don't think it deserves a perfect score. It does falter some points. But overall, if I had to review Recreators between an A through F, I would have to give it an A. It's very close. It's very close to an A+. But, like I said, the narration does kill it at times. They do spend some unnecessary amount of time re-talking about certain parts and stuff like that. And that can it kills the momentum at certain episodes during certain sequences. But, when the show gets back on track, when it's able to throw in narration with a little action, or narration that feels like it's progressing the story forward, the show excels. And it does something that I have not seen from another show in a long time. Anyways, guys and girls, I hope you enjoyed this review. As always, if you did, hit the like button, subscribe button, share button, check out my Patreon for different awards, etc. And as always, until our paths cross again, everyone, God bless you all. Bye-bye.